The first lie wasn't even spoken. It just hovered on the screen. I was standing in our kitchen, still in my work slacks, watching the kettle hiss. Her gym bag was still by the front door, where she'd tossed it hours ago after forgetting it again. She always forgot things lately. Left the lights on. Left her shoes in the middle of the hallway. Left me mid-conversation more times than I could count. It was Thursday. She was supposed to be at the gym. I only opened Snapchat to kill time. Something about the way the silence hung between us that morning, the kind where nothing's technically wrong, but everything feels just slightly misaligned, had me scrolling without really thinking. I tapped the map icon, and there it was. A red Bitmoji pin sitting in a neighborhood across town. Not the gym, not her office, not anywhere she'd mentioned. I zoomed in. An apartment complex. I'd never seen it before. No businesses, no shops, just a row of parking lots and beige balconies. And her little cartoon face smiling above it all, like it was exactly where she belonged. For a second, I actually believed it might be a glitch. That's the thing with betrayal. Your brain wants to protect you from it. It starts negotiating, fabricating. Maybe she left her phone in a rideshare. Maybe the map didn't update. But my hand was already moving. Screenshot. The kettle screamed. I shut it off. I texted her. Something casual. Hey, what time are you heading home? She replied quick. Still at the gym. Why? I stared at the screen. Then typed. Just saw your location. Looks like you're across town. There was a long pause. Then weird. Probably a glitch. My thumb hovered over her message. My other hand opened the screenshot. It stared back at me, bright and silent. I could hear her voice from memory, that soft, dry tone she used when she wanted to stay calm, when she was hiding something. I stared at her reply, then typed, "You sure?" Read. No reply. A glitch. Right. Like the bags under her eyes were a glitch. Like the faint scent of men's cologne that wasn't mine was a glitch. Like how she locked her phone now when she used to leave it open on the counter while brushing her teeth. Something was happening. I just didn't know what it was yet. An hour passed. She came home like nothing was off. Hair slightly damp, in that twisted towel she always used. Leggings, hoodie, gym bag now slung over her shoulder like proof. She kissed me. Quick. Shallow. How was your day? She asked, breezing into the fridge. I watched her open a LaCroix like she hadn't just lied to my face. Or maybe she hadn't. Maybe she'd lied to the screen. Safer that way. You said the SnapMap glitched. She froze. Just a second. Can of lime fizz halfway to her lips. Yeah, she said slowly. Probably was in someone's car. You know how those apps are. I took a screenshot. The can clicked softly as she set it down. Seriously? I didn't say anything. Just looked at her. Really looked. Her lashes didn't flutter. Her pupils didn't dilate. But her body shifted slightly, like she'd taken a step back without moving at all. Why would you even check? She asked. And there it was. Not an answer, but a defense. An offense, even. Because something's off, I said. Has been for weeks. She rolled her eyes and turned back to the fridge. A slow exhale. Jesus, Ryan. It's a glitch. Can we not turn this into a thing? But it was already a thing. I just didn't know how deep it went. That night, she crawled into bed like always. Hair wet from a shower I hadn't heard. Phone tucked under her pillow. She said good night without looking at me. I didn't sleep. Instead, I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The missed calls, the extra showers, the gym days where she came home barely sweating. I'd blamed it on burnout. Or maybe distance. That's what people in long-term relationships do. They rationalize. They tell themselves trust is about letting go. That questioning someone is worse than being wrong. But that screenshot was staring at me every time I closed my eyes. That bright red pin, sitting exactly where she swore she hadn't been. By morning, I had a plan. Not for confrontation. Not yet. First, I needed to know who lived in that apartment, and why her SnapMap said she was right there, smiling, like she had nothing to hide. I parked across the street from the apartment complex just after noon on Friday. I didn't tell her I left work early. She thought I had back-to-back meetings. She'd stopped asking about my days lately, so I stopped offering. The complex was newer, clean, beige stucco and quiet, trimmed hedges. Not the kind of place you'd expect secrets to live in. But secrets are tidy like that. They fit themselves into clean lines, symmetrical parking lots, coded entryways. I sat in the car, engine off, watching the building. Third floor. East wing. That's where the pin had been. I'd studied the screenshot like it was a crime scene. Zoomed in on the cross streets, counted the balconies, found the exact angle. There was a single door up there with a doormat that said, welcome-ish. A dead giveaway. She hated those kinds of jokes. Said they were passive-aggressive, which meant it wasn't her place. Someone else lived there. Someone with a sense of humor she used to hate. At 12:47, a man stepped out. Tall, athletic, gray hoodie. He glanced down at his phone, then pocketed it and headed toward a matte black Mazda. No gym bag, no uniform, no delivery gear. Just a guy leaving his place in the middle of the day like he didn't have to explain himself to anyone. I waited, then stepped out of my car, walked across the street like I lived there, and followed him at a distance. He drove to a strip mall 10 minutes away. Nothing special. A laundromat, a nail salon, a smoothie place. He went into the latter. I parked, waited a beat, and followed him inside. He was talking to the girl behind the counter like he knew her. Laughing, flirty. His hands moved a lot. Confident. Comfortable. I stood at the back, pretending to study the menu, listening. Yeah, she left her jacket again, he said with a chuckle, pulling out something from his bag. Black. Lululemon. I recognized it instantly. I'd bought it for her 2 Christmases ago. Told her I'm gonna start charging her rent. The barista laughed. The guy was still smiling when he turned around and saw me standing there. He paused, just for a second. I ordered a smoothie I didn't want. He left before me. Back in my car, I watched him drive off. He didn't go back to the apartment. He didn't go to work. He just drove. No pattern. No purpose. Like a man killing time before his next appointment. I followed him again the next day. And the next. He never did anything suspicious. Not technically. But my wife's location popped up near his place twice more. Always mid-afternoon. Always gym time. And always, afterward, she came home with that damp hair look and freshly opened excuses. I confronted her again Sunday night. You were at the gym? I asked. She looked up from her phone. Yeah. Did you run into anyone? Anyone I know? She blinked. Too long. No. Why? No reason. She waited a beat, then went back to scrolling. That was the moment I knew, really knew, that she was going to lie all the way through. That there would never be a confession. Only holes for me to fall into if I pushed too hard. So I stopped pushing. I started collecting. Over the next week, I made a folder. Not on my desktop, but on an external drive. Titled it Receipts. Inside, screenshots of SnapMap locations. Photos of the guy with her jacket. A zoomed-in shot of them at a gas station. She was in the passenger seat, laughing. Bank statements showed a new gym membership. One she hadn't mentioned. Across town. Near his place. I installed a new app on my phone. One that logs GPS data, not just the visible SnapMap location. If her phone was with her, I'd know. Down to the footstep. I started sleeping with one eye open. She curled into me like always, her breath warm on my shoulder, her arm draped across my chest. But it wasn't affection. It was camouflage. A habit she hadn't broken yet. One night, she murmured, "You've been quiet lately." I said, "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was watching. And the more I watched, the more I realized this wasn't just about where she went. It was about who she became when she got there. Her text tone shifted. Her body language softened in photos she didn't think I could see. There was a different version of her now, one I didn't recognize, one I wasn't invited to know. I started tracking the patterns. Mondays and Thursdays. Always 3:15 to 5:45 p.m. She said her spin class ran long, but he didn't have a bike rack. The sixth time, she forgot her water bottle at the gym and had to swing back. I knew. She wasn't careless. She just didn't think I was watching closely enough. The first thing I noticed was the way she started humming in the car again. It was something she used to do when we first got together, this soft, tuneless melody under her breath while she drove or did dishes or folded laundry. It vanished somewhere around year 2, after the fights about money and the quiet discontent that started layering over everything. But suddenly, it was back, like a soundtrack to something I wasn't allowed to hear. She hummed on Monday as she drove us to dinner with friends, tapped her fingers against the steering wheel, smiled at nothing. She hadn't touched me in weeks, but her mood was light, like she was finally full again. That was the giveaway. People think infidelity announces itself through lipstick stains and midnight texts. But the truth is quieter. It arrives in the form of peace, of someone who suddenly no longer needs anything from you because they've found it elsewhere. At dinner, she laughed more than usual. Her eyes never met mine. She clinked glasses with friends and told a story about work that wasn't quite true, a project she'd supposedly stayed late for, one I knew she'd skipped entirely. The ease with which she lied made my stomach churn. After dessert, I excused myself and walked to the back patio. The evening was cold, quiet. Her phone buzzed on the table inside, lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Matt. I stared at it through the glass door. 3 dots danced for a second. Then a new message appeared. Missed your smell already. She didn't see it. She was still inside, laughing, pouring more wine. I stepped back in. She smiled at me, distracted, and brushed a crumb from my collar like it meant something. The act was muscle memory now, not affection. Later that night, I checked her bathroom drawer. The perfume was new, a citrusy blend I hadn't smelled on her before. She tossed the old bottle, the one I'd bought her last year for our anniversary. That small act hit me harder than the text. Replacing a scent is intimate. It's not for the world. It's for the person who gets close enough to breathe it in. The person who kisses your neck, who unzips your dress, who knows how your skin smells underneath it. I didn't ask. I didn't confront. I took the bottle and Googled the brand. It was expensive. Boutique. A niche line from a small Parisian label that didn't even ship domestically. She hadn't worn perfume in 6 months, but she'd gone out of her way for this one. I scrolled through her emails later that night while she slept. She hadn't changed her password. Maybe she thought I never would. Maybe she wanted to get caught. People do that, sometimes. They stop hiding as a way of ending something they're too cowardly to kill. The perfume receipt was there. And more. Dinner reservations in neighborhoods she'd never mentioned. An Airbnb confirmation for a single night the week before. No luggage. No explanation. Just a line in the calendar that said, wellness seminar. I traced the address. It was 5 blocks from his apartment. I kept digging. An Uber receipt on a Sunday night. 10:34 p.m. She told me she was at her sister's. The drop-off location, the complex with the welcome-ish mat. The lies weren't even clever. Just lazy. I went back to the SnapMap screenshot. Cross-referenced the date. Matched the timestamp to the Uber receipt. It all lined up. It had always lined up. I just needed the key. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye with that same light hum under her breath. Her hair smelled like smoke and citrus. I watched her drive away. Then I opened the external drive and started organizing. By date, by detail, by intent. Not just to make sense of it, but to build something from it. Something airtight. Something she couldn't slip out of. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. Whether this was going to end in silence or fire. But I knew one thing. She wasn't coming back from this clean. That night, I followed her. Not directly, not close, just enough to stay in orbit. She didn't go to the gym. She didn't go to her sister's. She didn't even go to him. She drove to a Target parking lot and waited. 10 minutes later, he pulled up, got in her car. They drove off together. That was new. They didn't go far, just to a park near the lake. Pulled into a dark spot under the trees. I stayed 2 rows back. Engine off. Windows down. They didn't talk much. Just leaned into each other. His hand on her thigh. Her fingers in his hair. I watched until I couldn't anymore. Then I backed out and drove home, careful not to scream. Careful not to cry. Careful not to think. By the time she walked through the door, a full 2 hours later, I had her favorite show playing on the TV and a glass of wine waiting for her. She looked surprised. "Everything okay?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah, just missed you." Her face softened. She stepped closer, curling into me like old times. But it wasn't old times. Not anymore. It was a countdown. By the following week, she'd gotten bolder. There was a new pair of earrings on the nightstand. Gold hoops, larger than anything she used to wear. Her style had always leaned minimalist. But lately, everything was louder. The makeup, the jewelry, even the way she dressed for errands that took 3 hours and returned her home without a single shopping bag. She was transforming in plain sight. And the worst part? She was happy. That's what betrayal looks like when it blooms. Not rage, not guilt, just quiet satisfaction. A woman who hums again. A woman who's too well rested. A woman who moves like her limbs belong to someone else now. I stopped asking questions. Instead, I bought a burner phone. It wasn't about catching her anymore. I already had the proof. Timestamps, GPS logs, screenshots, bank charges, receipts. It was about learning the full shape of what she was building behind my back. The phone was a tool, just like the audio recorder I kept in my glove box. Just like the tiny camera I discreetly clipped to the back of our hallway coat rack, angled at the front door. I told myself it wasn't paranoia. It was architecture. I was mapping the lie. On Wednesday, while she was out, I opened her laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen table, logged in, trusting that I was still asleep upstairs. That trust was a gift. I didn't waste it. There was a browser tab still open. Gmail. One message stood out, starred, unread, not from me. It was from Matt. Subject, just say when. Body, Sunday night was a lot. You okay? I keep thinking about the way you looked when you pulled away. Still smells like you in here. Let me know when you can talk. I'm not going anywhere. M. I didn't forward it to myself. I didn't print it. I just read it, then read it again, then stared at her background wallpaper. A photo of us from 3 years ago in Tulum. Her hand on my chest. My face blurred slightly from motion. I looked like I was leaning in for a kiss. I remembered that trip. She cried on the last night, said she'd never been so in love. And now she was leaving pieces of herself in someone else's apartment. That night, she came home smelling like him again. I could smell it before she even took her shoes off. That warm, smoky trace of unfamiliar laundry detergent and cologne that didn't belong in our house. She said, the gym was packed. I left early. I said, good call. She blinked. Waited. Nothing came. Then she walked away. And that was it. The new rhythm of our marriage. Her feeding me half-truths. Me pretending they were whole. 2 actors refusing to break character. Waiting for the final scene to write itself. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I was writing it myself. I met with a lawyer that Friday. Not because I was ready to file. Not yet. But I wanted to understand the terrain. Know where the landmines were buried. We'd bought the house together. No prenup. No kids. Her job paid more than mine. She didn't know I'd been saving receipts in more ways than one. The lawyer's name was Haley. Calm. Precise. with the kind of face that didn't flinch at ugliness. She listened to everything without interrupting. Then she said, "So you're not leaving?" "Not yet." "No." "Do you want reconciliation? Or strategy?" "Both." "In that order." Haley nodded once, like that wasn't the first time she'd heard that exact line. "You need a clean timeline," she said. "And leverage. Start with property. Anything she's trying to move, sell, hide. If she's planning to leave, she'll start laying the groundwork quietly. You watch for that." "I already am." Haley smiled. "Just barely. Then we'll be ready when the time comes." That weekend, I followed her again. Not in my car this time. I rented one. Parked it 2 blocks from ours. Switched jackets. Hat low. Sunglasses. I wasn't playing the angry husband. I was something else now. Something colder. She drove to a cafe on the edge of the city. Not one we'd ever been to together. She walked in alone. I watched from a parked distance. 20 minutes later, he arrived. Matt. He kissed her cheek like it was second nature. She leaned into him, touched his wrist, smiled like she used to smile at me when we first met. That private smile. The one that said, "I'm glad you're here." I took a picture through the windshield. Time-stamped. Dated. Labeled. Another page in the record. Then something unexpected happened. She handed him something. Small. Folded paper. He tucked it into his pocket without reading. A check? A note? A key? I felt my chest tighten. Not from jealousy. From the understanding that I was being phased out. Not just emotionally, but logistically. She was preparing for a transition. Leaving breadcrumbs for a life she hadn't yet told me she was planning. They stayed for 45 minutes. Left separately. But not before she brushed a hair from his forehead in a gesture that felt too domestic to be casual. I didn't follow him this time. I followed her. She didn't go home. She drove to the beach, parked, rolled her windows down, and just sat there, watching the water. I watched her from a nearby bench, long enough to see her start crying. Her shoulders didn't shake. Her face didn't twist. Just a slow, steady leak, like a faucet turned on low. And I realized she wasn't happy. She was torn. This wasn't a woman walking away clean. This was a woman standing in a hallway, staring at 2 open doors and pretending they weren't both on fire. And for the first time, I wasn't sure what I wanted. Did I want to save us? Or punish her? Because I could do either. I had enough now. Enough to confront. Enough to destroy. But I waited. Just a little longer. Because endings deserve precision. And I wanted ours to be unforgettable. Sunday morning arrived with the smell of rain on the windows and the ticking of the kitchen clock louder than usual. She slept in, curled toward the wall, back turned to me like always now. I lay beside her, fully dressed. Awake. The folders sat on the dining table in a plain manila shell. No label. No warning. Inside, 23 pages of curated truths. Screenshots. Receipts. Photos. A printed copy of the email from Matt. A bank statement showing the boutique perfume. Her second gym membership. The Airbnb confirmation. And at the bottom, a USB drive. The plan wasn't impulsive. I'd rehearsed it. Every line. Every beat. There'd be no shouting. No questions. Just facts. She came downstairs at noon. Hair wet, robe loose, coffee mug in hand. Her eyes met mine, and then flicked to the folder like she didn't mean to look. A small twitch at her jaw. Fear, maybe. Or curiosity. Same expression you'd wear if someone left a loaded gun in your place setting at dinner. "What's that?" she asked. I didn't answer. Just nodded toward the chair across from mine. She sat slowly, one hand on her coffee like it might protect her. She didn't open the folder right away. She just stared at it. The silence between us felt like a held breath, stretched so thin I could hear the heat pipes knocking under the floor. Then she opened it, and everything stopped. She didn't flip through the pages. She read each one, carefully. No fake confusion. No gasps. just a slow unraveling of posture. By page 6, her shoulders had dropped. By page 9, her lips were pressed so tight they vanished. She paused at the photo of her and Matt on the bench outside the cafe. I watched her face. Still no tears. Still no words. When she finished, she closed the folder gently, lined it up perfectly with the edge of the table. Her hand lingered on it like she might reach for mine next. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, "How long have you known?" "Since the SnapMap." Her eyes flicked up to mine, and for a moment, something like guilt passed over her. Then it vanished. "I thought you believed me." "No," I said. "I wanted to." That hung between us. The difference between love and willful ignorance. She nodded once. Then, "So what now?" And there it was, the line I'd written this whole scene to reach. What now? I reached into the second drawer of the sideboard and pulled out a second envelope. This one wasn't for her. It was addressed to Matt. She looked at it, then at me. "You're not going to give that to him," she said. "I already did." That was a lie. But her reaction told me I didn't need to. She pushed back from the table. Not violently. Just enough to put space between us. "You've been tracking me." "Yes." "Recording me?" "Only what you left in plain sight." "Jesus, Ryan." "No, not anymore." She looked down, ran a hand through her hair, then laughed softly. "Bitter. You really built a whole burn file on me." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. "I was going to end it," she said, finally. "With him." "When?" "I don't know." She stood and walked to the sink, poured her coffee down the drain. The mug clattered. Too loud. Her hands were shaking. I followed her slowly. "Was it worth it?" I asked. She didn't turn. "No," she said. "Not the way I thought it'd be." I waited. "You were easy to walk past, Ryan. You stopped looking at me. You stopped seeing me." I felt it like a slap, but I didn't flinch. "So you needed someone else to confirm you still existed?" "I needed someone to want me." "I did." "Not like that." "Not for a long time." We stood in silence, her back to me, my hand on the edge of the counter between us. "I should go," she whispered. I nodded. She didn't pack a bag, didn't grab her keys, just walked upstairs, barefoot, and when she came down again 20 minutes later, she was in jeans and a jacket I didn't recognize. At the door, she hesitated. "Is there anything else you're going to send him?" I met her eyes. "That depends," I said, "on whether you keep lying." She opened the door. Rain misted the porch. Her car blinked in the driveway. As she stepped out, she turned back one last time. "Did you ever really love me, Ryan?" I wanted to say yes, but I couldn't. So I said, "I loved who you were before you became someone else." She closed the door behind her. No slam. No goodbye. Just quiet. I watched her drive away through the slits in the blinds. Her tires hissed against wet pavement. The red of her brake lights faded at the corner, and then she was gone. I didn't cry. I didn't pour whiskey. I didn't burn the folder. I just sat on the floor of the kitchen, back against the cabinets, and listened to the quiet that used to mean peace. Now it just meant absence. But it was mine. For the first time in months, everything in this house was mine again. The first night alone in the house felt like stepping into an old coat you hadn't worn in years. Familiar, slightly stiff, a little heavier than you remember. I didn't turn on the lights right away. I just let the dim gray from the porch bleed across the living room. Her perfume still clung faintly to the throw blanket she used to curl under. The cushion where she sat hadn't yet regained its shape. Her toothbrush was still in the holder. She didn't take much. That was the most telling part. The next morning, I changed the locks. Not because I thought she'd come back, but because I didn't want to wonder if she might. That's the worst part of betrayal, the waiting that follows. The phantom moments. The click of a car door outside that makes your chest tighten. The way silence stops sounding like peace and starts sounding like maybe. So I made it impossible. That same afternoon, I sent Matt the envelope. No note. No return address. Just the folder, sealed tight. Let him do what he wanted with it. Read it. Burn it. Show it to his next girlfriend. It didn't matter. I wasn't chasing consequences. I was handing off the weight. He could carry her now. A week passed. No texts. No calls. I blocked her on everything, but still I checked my blocked list once or twice, just to see if her name had lit up again. It hadn't. The silence was total, and yet the house still felt full of echoes. I found a pair of her earrings under the bed while vacuuming. One had dust clinging to the clasp. I almost left them there, but instead, I dropped them in the bathroom trash and closed the lid. No ceremony, no vengeance, just disposal. Every corner of the house held small evidence of her. A drawer with lavender sachets, a chipped mug she used for tea, a photo strip tucked between two books on the shelf, the two of us laughing, cheek to cheek, her eyes closed, mine wide with something I can't name anymore. It didn't hurt to look at it. It didn't feel like a memory, just a version of me I didn't recognize now. 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. But the slant of the cursive was unmistakable. I didn't open it right away. Just left it on the counter while I made coffee, took a long shower, sat in the quiet. When I finally slit the envelope, I found 4 lines. I'm sorry for how I left things. I wanted to love you better, but I didn't know how to be who you needed. You deserve the truth sooner. I hope someday you'll believe I meant the good parts. No name, no signature, just those words. I read them once, then tucked the letter in the drawer with the rest of the paperwork, the only place she still existed. A month passed, then another. I started sleeping through the night again, started eating meals instead of forgetting them, started going on walks after work just to feel the wind, just to feel anything. The silence grew easier. Friends invited me out. I started showing up again. Not all at once. Not loud. Just present. A version of me that felt lighter. Like I wasn't always bracing for the next unspoken thing. I deleted the Snapchat app. Didn't want to see anyone's location anymore. Didn't want to measure intimacy by a moving pin. The things that used to hurt became ordinary. Her name. Her scent. Her playlists. The casual cruelty of the word gym. Eventually, I replaced the couch, donated the robe she always wore, painted the bedroom walls a different color. People talk about moving on like it's this dramatic leap, a new lover, a wild haircut, a vacation. But mostly it's just rearranging. It's wiping down a counter and realizing you're not thinking about them anymore. It's brushing your teeth at night and not wondering where they are. It's not being okay, not exactly, but no longer needing to pretend you are. That's healing, not happiness, just absence without pain. I saw her again once, at the grocery store, months later, late fall. She was by the produce section, turning an avocado over in her hand like it might answer something. She looked older, more tired, but she still wore that same ring I'd bought her, not our wedding ring, but the gold band she wore on her right hand. Said it made her feel grounded. She didn't see me. I left without saying anything. Didn't want to ruin the moment for her. Didn't want to steal the calm I'd earned. Sometimes I still think about the screenshot. That glowing red pin, smiling back at me from across town. The moment everything changed. The second she stopped being mine. I'm grateful for it now. Not because it showed me the truth, but because it showed me who I was when it mattered. I didn't scream. I didn't chase. I watched. I learned. And when the time came to burn it all down, I did it with silence and precision. No one saw the smoke. But I did. And I've been breathing easier ever since. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.